Forspoken was one of the few games I never thought I would go back and play, but as 2023 is coming to an end and I had some free time to think back on the year with the holidays approaching, I couldn't help but keep thinking about all the discourse around Forspoken back when it released in January, make me wonder if it really was that bad since it was a game I really wanted to play but just didn't have the free time at that point. Plus, it's kind of a Christmas game, so it just made sense to do a video on it now. Anyway, so I downloaded Forspoken and jumped into a game that after putting in roughly 50 hours has left me truly dazed on how I should even feel about it, because there are so many parts I really enjoyed from both a story and gameplay perspective, but they are surrounded by soulless designs I just can't understand what the idea behind them were. With that said, I'll start with the gameplay of Forspoken since that's always what's most important to me when jumping into a new game, because if a game is not fun to play, then nothing else usually matters to me, with there being obvious exceptions. But anyway, Forspoken's combat revolves around a purely base magic system with 4 types of magic where Frey, the main character, can cast attack spells with her right hand and support magic with her left hand. The attack spells revolve around doing a basic attack combo followed by a charged attack that can vary depending on what you have selected. For example, the flaming sword can be charged up for a two-handed swing or a fiery spear that can be thrown, and these charged attacks can be executed in various ways, either by holding down the button to charge them or performing various actions that allow you to quick fire your highest charged spell, like after a combo or dodging. Then support magic covers a wide variety of effects, from pulling enemies together, curing status ailments, or creating flaming soldiers to fight alongside you. Then to go along with these abilities, you also have surge magic, which is basically your ultimate attack. Then you also have a bit of a strange parry system, where if you get hit with certain attacks, you can counter them, which restores your health loss from the attack based on your timing. Finally, you have what's almost like a finisher attack you could do on a down enemy. I say almost since it won't always finish off an enemy, it is more of a way to inflict bonus damage. Now, this entire system of weaving magic is complemented by a movement parkour system, where you're able to rapidly run around to dodge enemy attacks, which works by when you're running, Frey will auto-dodge attacks, which it is as simple as it sounds, though there is some nuance to this, like certain enemy attacks will hit Frey no matter what, so you need to completely use your quick movement to get out of the way. Also, you will use up stamina while running, so you can't just run around forever during battles, though it's an issue I rarely ran into, but the parkour system really complements the spell weaving well, since critical hits on enemies are performed by striking them from behind, and sometimes the sides, so this really made me feel like I was rewarded for using these two systems together. Not to mention there is a ranking system during battles that rewards the player with more dropped items and experience the higher your grade is, which your grade depends on various factors such as spell variety, damage taken, and more. This also motivated me to use all tools available to me, which I loved, because what is the point of having so many spells and abilities if you're not going to reward the player for using them? So it was good to see them push for the player to do just that. Though there is one massive downside to this entire system, and it's an issue where I could easily see so many people dropping the game off because of it, and that is the fact that you don't even unlock all 4 trees of magic till right before the final boss basically, which is wild to me. You play through the whole story without 25% of the spells. I mean, I didn't even unlock the second magic tree till 10 hours in, since you unlock each one after defeating a main story boss, so the game basically plays like a glorified third-person shooter till then. It's a travesty how they set this up and tie the combat with the story, because the combat really is good once you have access to everything. Personally, it would have been way more interesting having one big magic tree that branches out to the different styles of magic, allowing you to learn various spells from all the different styles of magic, and just having the movement abilities you gain from the bosses being the rewards that open up new areas of the map to the player, encouraging exploration. Because, for example, when you beat the first Tanta, you get the ability Zip, which is basically a grappling hook that lets you reach previous areas that were unreachable. Which, speaking of exploration, the world of Forspoken is one of the most lifeless, oversized maps I've ever played in a video game. Don't get me wrong, I love the art style of the world in Forspoken. Each Tanta's land really has a unique look that stands out, and it's cool seeing these lands as you blaze a path through them. but there's just nothing interesting to really do. You have a massive amount of copy and paste objectives to do that just became boring to me over time. Like run to this statue to get an upgrade, jump into this pool to get a new spell, sneak up to this magical cat. I was losing my mind, and it's not that these things can't be good in a game, but they just make it so boring in Forspoken. Like the dungeons, for example. They are a straight hallway, fight enemies in a room. Run down another straight hallway, fight more enemies in a room. Run down a side hallway, do random easy puzzle. Run down final hallway, fight boss. They're all like this, and it's honestly depressing. It's like, why did you design it this way? Why not shrink the oversized world down by like 25 to 40%? Make fewer dungeons, and have the experiences in them be more unique. And really what probably makes this such a huge issue is the fact the enemy variety is so boring as well. None of them really do anything that stands out outside of just being weak to different magic types. It's like, oh look, another 4-legged monster. Oh look, I'm now fighting 5 of this winged monster. Oh look, the whole room is full of bears. Like seriously, come on. Would it hurt to have some enemy depth outside of the main story bosses? Which even there they disrespect the player by throwing more normal enemies at you? It's like, who thought this was a good idea? I will never understand why developers get obsessed with making worlds as large as possible just to fill them with boring content. I will always believe in having a smaller open world with more unique content and enemy encounters. Definitely when you have this many magic spells to play with. Like there was one spot in the open world where I fought this water boss again from earlier in the game at a point that would most likely be most players' first dungeon, which was a terrible experience fighting it then. But this setup in the open world after earning the water movement spell made it the most fun fight in the entire game for me outside of the main boss fights. Crazy what a little level design can do for an enemy encounter. But that's enough rambling about that. There are a few more things I want to note that I liked or annoyed me before moving on to the story. For starters, when moving through the world and leveling up, you get mana, which is spent to unlock new spells. This I'm fine with. But when unlocking spells, you get an available challenge with each of them, but you have to go to this bookshelf in various places in the world to access these challenges. You can only select up to 3 of them. I don't like this type of system. I already put in the work to unlock the spell. I should just unlock the challenge automatically and be able to complete it without needing to go select it, because I'll be out in the open world, get all 3 challenges complete, and have to stop what I'm doing, head back, grab 3 more, and go out again, which is just a waste of time that serves really no purpose. At least allow me to select the challenges no matter where I'm at if you're worried about me completing them too fast. Not to mention this system literally goes against your combat ranking system, encouraging using a variety of spells in battle. Then there's a crafting and upgrading system with equipment. It's about what you expect, using various resources to make healing items or adding new passives you unlock to place on your equipment, which includes necklaces and cloaks. Then another option in the game is painting your nails with symbols to gain additional passives, and I love this idea because it's tying the lore of the game into how you're improving your character, which is always cool to me. Then in terms of performance, the game ran fine for me. I didn't notice any frame drops during gameplay. Now obviously there has been many updates to the game since release, so I can't speak on how it was then, but as of right now on the PS5 playing on performance mode, it worked really well. Though I did notice from the menus to the cutscenes there are some weird long pauses or fades to black that really disrupt the game over time, which shouldn't even be an issue. The menus should never be this, I guess you would say, laggy, considering how important they are to the gameplay. But with that said, it's about time we talked about the story.
Did I just do that?
Well, definitely with my assistance.
I did not just do that.
We did.
I just moved shit with my mind.
Perhaps our connection has somehow awoken.
Now at this point, almost everyone has probably seen the infamous clip of the main character talking about moving shit with her mind, but obviously there is way more to the story than that. The game opens up with the introduction of the main character Frey Holland, who happens to be an orphan abandoned by her parents with no explanation. After getting in trouble with the law multiple times, it gained some serious kindness from the judge, allowing her one final chance to set her life straight. Frey wants to leave New York with her cat Homer, who is an adorable, fluffy cat, I might add, just to get away from everything and start over with the money she has been saving up. Unfortunately, some unsavory individual sets her current home on fire and she loses everything. Then from there, she gives her cat to the judge, finds a magical cuff, and is teleported into another world called Athia, so basically Forspoken is a isekai game. This entire premise to me is an interesting idea because the possibilities on how you can intertwine these narratives is endless. Definitely when you look at the rest of the story, Frey learns how to use magic, while also being stuck with a talking Cuff that has different motives from hers. He wants Frey to help the people of Athia by defeating the 4 leaders of the land known as the Tantas, who were once good but turned insane, and putting a stop to the plague destroying the land known as the Break, while all she wants to do is return home. I mean, this should be a home run story, but there are so many parts that feel rushed or missing extra context that drove me insane. Like early on in the game, when you meet this girl named Olivia, so Frey has enormous trust issues throughout the game and really doesn't want to get attached to anyone since it always seems to turn out bad for her. But when she bumps into Olivia, who steals from Frey, she feels a connection and sees herself in the young girl, thus a bond is formed. But then within no time at all, literally 50 minutes later of playtime for me, she's dead, and this is the motivation for Frey to actually push out on this journey to fight the first Tanta, which I'm fine with. But there's no real character building here for the player to truly get attached to Frey's and Olivia's characters. Like, why should I care at this point? Don't get me wrong, children dying is not a good thing, but when a character is thrown away so fast for the sake of moving the plot forward, it's just bad writing. Frey didn't need that as motivation. At that point in the story, you just got done saving the father of who would become Frey's best friend throughout the story, Auden. Auden's father, Robian, knows about how Frey got to their world, so she needs his help, even though he is losing his mind from the break. So the motivation should have just came from the people of Sepal, which is the main city, getting attacked, and the first Tanta killing Robian at that moment, giving Frey motivation to meet her to try to find a way home. Then when Frey returns after defeating the Tanta, she could have had a moment with Auden, who is mourning her father, and then had a nice long sequence at this point where Olivia is proud of Frey, talking about how she knew Frey would save them all. Thus leading to the moment where a break storm, which is like a miasma, hits the city of Sepal. This could have been the moment where Frey loses Olivia by seeing her get turned into a break monster that she has to put down. This would have set up the rest of the game so well. Instead, we get a story that, even though it had potential, it's just lost behind a very diluted plot that seems to refuse to really build the relationships of the characters in any meaningful way. We just don't get enough time with them. Even playing through all the detours of the game, which are like side quests, they only add so much to the story, which in some cases could be missed if you're focusing solely on the main quest, which is weird to me. Some of these detours should have just been incorporated into the main story quest because they feel that important, like giving Auden the gorilla to help her grieve over her dead father. Then of course, I can't ignore Vambrace, aka Cuff, the sidekick witty companion roasting and pushing Frey every chance he gets. I did not care for him for the first 20 hours I played, but the last stretch of the game, he turns out to be actually evil and trying to wipe out everyone in Athia. His power was trapped by the 4 Tantas, and he needed them dead to gain back that power so he could try to finish a job he started. I really liked this part of the story, and his boss fight was actually pretty badass also. At least the final part of it. The parts where you're riding on the dragon and fighting with it was completely unnecessary and boring. Like, if you're going to do that, at least let me use my own magic to fight while the dragon flies around. Anyway, going back to the story. The idea of Cuff being evil now made me more curious than ever about his and Frey's interactions and banter. I no longer found them annoying, they were actually interesting to me, so after beating the final boss, I finished off the rest of the detours just to get more of these interactions, and that led to me playing the DLC, which though the enemy variety was still boring, the 2 main bosses were a blast to fight, and the story told in those 3 hours it lasted was pretty good, with Frey reliving a memory of another Athian who was rescued by her mother, with even some unique gameplay elements like a combo system and magic spells that worked like a mixture of the 4 different spell schools, which is what led to me really wishing I had a way to set up spell wheels with a variety of spells instead of them being stuck with the type of magic they're associated with. But ultimately, I didn't hate my time with Forspoken, and even enjoyed it at times, but I do regret playing it because we will most likely never see a sequel that could have refined and perfected an idea that could have been something truly special, and not seeing how this story between Frey and Cuff plays out will forever be a travesty to me.